Hello, hello, and welcome to my thought on this Friday. Um, I'm reading that cinemas are opening up, some of them, and I'm remembering what going to the movies was like in the 40s. When we went to the movies, we went to a place called Lowe's Valentine, and it cost me 5 cents on the streetcar, and my mother would let me go alone. But my favorite times was when I went with my best friend, whose name was Gwendolyn Turner. Gwendolyn Turner. And we would go, and what would happen is we would go into the movie, into Lowe's Valentine, and I think it was something like 25 cents for each of us. And my mother would always give me extra money to get an ice cream soda or a chocolate milkshake after. Um, but Gwendolyn Turner's mother would never give her any money, so I would always share whatever I got with Gwendolyn Turner. Uh, and when we went, there were we go for double features. You would go in for 25 cents, and you would sit in the movie, and they'd start out with a newsreel. In the 40s, you would see all these terrible things about the war, with the bodies being thrown all over the place and places being blown up. We would sit there and watch, and then you'd get a feature one, and you'd watch it, and then there'd be the newsreel again, and then previews, which were exciting, and then you would get another movie, and we would stay there from 1 o'clock until 5, and we would watch all the movies, and we loved it. Then we would take the streetcar home, which was I think something like 5 cents each. Um, but one time we decided that we would be nice, and we would take my sister. Neither of us liked my sister, but my sister was a very clever. She still is very clever little girl, and she knew how to manipulate reality. So we took my sister. My mother was thrilled because she didn't have to worry about her. She could go play mahjong with the girls. And we took my sister to a movie at Lowe's Valentine. And my mother gave me money just enough for me to get a chocolate milkshake. As usual, Gwendolyn Turner's mother didn't give her anything. And she didn't give me anything for Marcia D. Marcia D is 8 years younger than I am. So she would have been maybe 4 or 5, but no, she was really little. I'm trying to think. She had to be 3 or 4 because I was not a teenager. I was not Gwendolyn Turner, and I was 11 or 12. So she was very very young because she was 8 years younger than I. So she's about 4, and she was very very fat. She was without doubt the cutest little baby. I have never seen a baby as cute as my baby sister was when she was little. She was just precious. Very, very fat. She always looked like she was going to explode. Rosy cheeks, black curly hair, really curly, and um, and a mean expression because she was not very nice. She was always angry, but she was so cute. Everybody forgave her, and it was cute to look at this gorgeous little thing with this look. So we took her to the movie, and she was fairly quiet during the movie, which is unusual because when my sister wanted to get attention, she threw up. But fortunately for us, she didn't vomit during the movie. We loved the movie, and Gwendolyn and I watched both the features, and Marcia D was with us. And then afterwards, at 5 o'clock, before we took the streetcar home, we only had enough money for one milkshake. So I said to Gwendolyn, "No, it's okay. We'll get 3 straws. One for Marcia D, and one for Gwendolyn, and one for me." And we went into the ice cream shop because you used to go to drugstores, like Boots, and you would get. They always had a fountain, and you would get these marvelous, marvelous milkshakes and sodas and phosphates, all with lots of ice cream, delicious. So we got a milkshake, a big chocolate milkshake, and the size of them were absolutely huge. I don't think I don't know how it was in Britain, but in America it was just huge. It was almost a quart of 32 ounces. I would say 32 ounces, and it was delicious. It was ice cream and chocolate and milk, and it was beaten up in a funny mixer that had a little tiny thing in the bottom of it. And Marcia's watching, and Marcia's not saying anything, and Gwendolyn is just so grateful because she's getting to share this milkshake. And we get the milkshake, and we get 3 straws. And Gwendolyn and I were on the outside, and Marcia was on the inside. And Marcia immediately uh, began to suck on the straw. So she had to be four because otherwise, I think when she was three, she wouldn't have been able to figure it out. And she was busy demolishing that milkshake. Gwendolyn and I, trying to get our mouths around the straw, kept hitting our heads together, and laughing. And we were laughing and laughing and hitting our heads together, and we couldn't get the straw. We couldn't get close enough down to the straw to get the straw in our mouth, and we're laughing ourselves sick. And then suddenly we looked at the milkshake, and it was all gone because my sister had finished the entire thing, which I have always said was the story of my life. My sister always got there first and finished it, but that isn't really true. Gwendolyn Turner and I never took Marcia again, and my mother never forgave me. But from then on, we decided that if we were going to share a milkshake, we weren't going to bang our heads against the wall while my sister sat and demolished the whole thing. But the movies were just very, very special. The other story with the movie is that we used to see our movies were black and white. They were black and white, and Technicolor was the first time that and that movies were or when movies were in color, and the wide screen, which we didn't have. We had just a narrow screen, and I will never forget it. It was Jennifer Jones, and the movie was Duel in the Sun, and the piece de la resistance was, I guess they wounded Jennifer Jones, and you could see this red blood on the sand of the desert, and we were all going, "Oh, look at that!" So that was Technicolor. When I had television, I only had a black and white television. And then in 1980, I moved to California. I gave away my television set because I decided I had better things to do. But I went over to my friend Jerry's house to watch television, and he had a color television set, and I thought everybody was bleeding across the screen, which reminded me of Duel in the Sun. So movies have changed a great deal lately, but at least we're able to go to them. And I cannot encourage you enough to go on this lovely Friday or Saturday and go and lose yourself in fantasy. Because sometimes, as T.S. Eliot says, humankind can only stand just so much reality. And I'll leave you with that thought. So get yourself a dose of fantasy. I'm going to leave you with that thought on this lovely Friday.